Yeah.
Okay, Frank, ready when you are.
Okay. You guys ready?
Yeah.
Ready.
Here we go. Good morning. My name is Frank Satira, and I am the Green Party candidate for 2007 at-large Common Council here in Syracuse, New York. We are here on the steps of City Hall, the Syracuse House of Government, and my goal, among many others, is to make sure that we return this House of Government to one that is recognized, owned, used, and appreciated by the people of Syracuse.
Right on.
No longer are we going to have a separation between government and our residents. No longer are we going to have a separation between government and our residents' decision making. We are going to create a situation that creates the best possible outcome for those who live in Syracuse and the best possible relationship with our city government.
Yay.
I want to thank the media for being here, of course, along with our door knocking campaign, which is going to be the primary way that we reach our voters, getting on their doorsteps and talking about the issues, asking them what their needs are and what their issues are for our campaign. We are going to be working as much as we can with the media. We are also going to be doing a really strong outreach to have as many house parties as we can. So my supporters out there who are listening right now, please get in touch. We would love to come to your home, talk with you in person and with your friends. My campaign is going to be centered around making Syracuse a Syracuse that works, and that means a couple different things. The first thing it means is that Syracuse will be a government that works within itself and with its residents in an efficient and effective way. No more stops to city government for issues like email. We will have a functioning government that will take control of the process and return that process back to the citizens. One way that we'll do that is we will implement a live streaming service within our chambers so that everybody can have access to city council meetings and city council discussion, not just those folks who can make it here today. I particularly bring that up because it's come to my attention that there might be a vote inside in just a few moments related to the budget and related to the land bank and all these concerns that many of us have in terms of city spending. However, I'm sure that the vast majority of you know that the discussion and the debates and the public meetings about this can only be attended by a very small portion of people. So those folks are unable to participate in the discussion or even to know what's going on. The other thing that we'll do is to create forward-thinking and innovative solutions to policy that we need in Syracuse, such as the sidewalk municipalization program. It is extremely important that Syracuse, as the snowiest small city in America, is able to keep its sidewalks clean and clear of snow and ice throughout the season. We have individuals who live here who need to get to work. We have families that need to go grocery shopping, and we have students that need to walk to their grade school, middle school, high school, and college locations. We can't do that if we continue to have streets that are sidewalks that are impossible for the majority of our city. And we intend to take the burden of that sidewalk clearing as well as maintenance off of the shoulders of individuals and onto the collective solution of the residents as a whole here in Syracuse. The second way that Syracuse will work is that we will have a successful relationship between our city and our county and state. We will no longer look to be competitive, we will look to be cooperative and collective decision makers with the folks that surround us and the folks that have an impact on our funding and our success. One of the ways that we'll do that is we'll work towards removing the regressive property tax system we have towards a progressive income tax system, because Syracuse does need the workers who come from outside of the city. We need the folks in our eds and meds who are living in our surrounding suburbs and towns and villages, but we also need them to take on their fair share of responsibility for our city infrastructure that supports their employers and supports their jobs here in the city of Syracuse. And lastly, we will have a community that works, which means that our residents and the folks who are here in Syracuse will work. We will have jobs, we will create job opportunities, and we will develop a complete worker-owned cooperative business development program here in Syracuse, like almost all of the other major cities in New York are already doing, creating jobs through worker-owned businesses that stabilize those businesses here in Syracuse and don't remove them when a company decides it's time to leave. We'll also have increased workforce training and hiring policies for city residents, and a City Works program that will provide short-term employment opportunities for anyone looking for work, and we can have, you know, those folks doing 101 different things, such as trash pickup. That's everyone's favorite little issue to deal with here in Syracuse. I will also increase the breadth and effectiveness of the Tomorrow's Neighborhoods Today program. As you know, the program has undergone a recent rebirth and transformation. It is into its own nonprofit 501c3 organization right now, and it holds a huge amount of promise for being that conduit and being that liaison between the residents and the city here in Syracuse. I've been working with that organization for a couple years now to develop the new strategic plan for it, and I will make sure that not only does it continue to function in the way that it currently does, but that we expand it into more neighborhood divisions so that we have more than 8 sectors across the city, and everybody gets not only an increased voice through the TNTs, but also an increased choice as to how money is spent as we look to increase our participatory budgeting allocations in the city as well, beyond the simple $5,000 per sector that we get right now. Lastly, I mentioned earlier the land bank repeal that might be possibly taking place, and other repeals that might possibly be taking place here at City Council today as the budget gets voted on. And we have to question, if the money is being removed from a program such as the land bank, what is the replacement solution then for dealing with all of those properties that are currently being held by the city? So before you take the stance of completely zeroing out the budget of an organization such as the land bank, there needs to be a solution in place to replace that organization and to replace that entity here in Syracuse. And second, if the money is being zeroed out from programs like the land bank, and as we've read recently is going to be put towards the increased police presence here in Syracuse, we also need to highly rethink that. We have a large number of police already in Syracuse that are just being used in perhaps an inappropriate way, and we can be used in a more effective way through community policing services. Our money should be going towards more services to put individuals to work, create opportunities for our residents, and have a larger connection with our city government as opposed to increased policing currently in Syracuse. So I thank everyone for coming out today. Thank all my supporters for being here. We're going to be reaching out to all of you, and we hope that you'll reach out to all of us too. www.votesatira.org is where you can find us online, as well as Facebook and Instagram. And please call, email, text, however it is you communicate. I will communicate back with you. Thanks so very much, and I would love to take questions if you have them.
Frank, why at large this time around after running the second last time?
I really feel like, since I didn't grow up here in Syracuse, that when I moved here in 2005, I became a citizen of the city as a whole. I've lived and worked in the Northside, the Eastside, the Southside, and the Westside in various capacities, as a volunteer, as an employee. My current job with the city, with the Onondaga Community College and the Small Business Development Center, really gives me a breadth of connections throughout the city, particularly the business and economic development world. You know, over the 8 years that I've worked for SBDC, I've accounted for over 200 jobs and over $3 million in economic impact through my business advising services, and most of that is from folks, entrepreneurs and small and medium business owners here in the city of Syracuse. So I already work with people from throughout the city in various capacities, and I really think that I can best represent the residents of the city as a whole.
Frank, you mentioned that a lot of other cities in New York already do things that are community-owned and focused businesses. Give me an example of one of those someplace, maybe it's a real one, you can leave the names out if you want, but how that shows how, you know, that can add to economic development, you know, work on poverty in this community.
Well, both Buffalo and Rochester are implementing new programs to create worker-owned cooperatives and worker-owned businesses. But of course, if we look at New York City as the example that has had the most success, they've already been doing this for a couple of years. I think 3 years ago, the City Council there allocated $1.5 million to the development of worker-owned businesses, and there are somewhere in the realm of 70 so worker-owned businesses in New York City right now. So those are jobs that are stable. Those are jobs that aren't going anywhere because the owners have control of them. And if we take a small portion of money from our budget to create worker-owned business center and development opportunities instead of continually giving that money away to larger corporate developers, we can create more of those opportunities for our small entrepreneurs here in Syracuse to work together.
So you ran for council once before?
Yes. I ran for council in 2015, 2nd District here in Syracuse. Proud to have gotten 21% of the vote in a three-way race. As folks may or may not be aware, as a Green Party candidate, we often get 4 to 5 times at least as many votes as we have registered members in Syracuse. We're really proud of that. People will respond favorably to our policies and to our candidates, and we know that a lot of people out there, even though they may not be registered green, should know that they can vote green and they can vote for me in November for at-large.
Is there a way to get more people to register? Why do you think there's that disparity?
Yeah. Well, one of the primary disparities